Look at your hand. Go ahead. Just look at it for a second. That skin you're seeing, most of those cells are already dead. The ones just underneath, they're maybe 2 or 3 weeks old. Your hand looks the same as it did last year, but almost nothing in it is the same. And that's just the skin. Your red blood cells, every single one of them, gone and replaced within 120 days. The lining of your stomach, swapped out every 3 to 5 days. It has to be, because if it didn't replace itself that fast, your own stomach acid would eat through it. Your bones, which feel about as permanent as anything could possibly feel, are being quietly dissolved and rebuilt constantly, so that in roughly 10 years, almost every atom in your skeleton has been exchanged for a new one. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Which atoms are you exactly? Because if the atoms keep changing, if the cells keep dying and being replaced, then what precisely is the thing that's been walking around in your body for all these years, calling itself by your name? I've been thinking about this for a long time, and the more carefully I look at it, the stranger it gets. Not simpler, stranger. Let's start with something that sounds like a philosophy puzzle, but is actually just Tuesday. You've probably heard of the ship of Theseus. Old Greek thought experiment. If you have a ship and you replace one plank, it's still the same ship. Replace another plank, still the same ship. Keep going until you've replaced every single plank. Now, is it the same ship? People argue about that one like it's clever. But here's the thing, your body isn't waiting for philosophers to settle the question. It's already doing this right now while you're watching this video. And the strange part is it's not even doing it uniformly. Your gut lining replaces itself every 3 to 5 days. Your skin cells, about 2 to 3 weeks. White blood cells, depending on the type, can be days to weeks. Red blood cells, about 4 months. Your liver, somewhere between 5 months and a year and a half. Fat cells, about 8 years. Your cardiac muscle cells are replaced very slowly. Some of them may actually be with you for most of your life. And then there are the neurons in your cerebral cortex, the ones doing your thinking right now. Most of those were there near the beginning. They don't get replaced. You've been carrying some of those neurons since you were an infant. So you're not being uniformly reborn. You're a mosaic, a patchwork of timescales. Some parts of you are brand new this week. Some parts are decades old. You're simultaneously ancient and newborn, and you don't even notice because the whole thing runs so quietly. Now here's where I want to go a level deeper, because cells are just containers, organized little bags of chemistry. What's actually being exchanged when a cell dies and a new one is made? Atoms. Every cell in your body is built from atoms, mostly carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, with a few others mixed in. Those atoms came from somewhere. You ate them. You breathed them. You drank them. Before that, they were in plants. Before that, in soil. Before that, in other animals, other organisms, other living things, going back through time. And before that, before any of that, they were forged in the cores of stars. Not metaphorically, literally. The carbon atoms in your body were synthesized inside massive stars through nuclear fusion, and then those stars exploded, supernovae, scattering that material across space. Eventually, some of it clumped together to form the solar system, the Earth, the oceans, the first organisms, and eventually, through 4 billion years of chemistry and evolution, you. Right now, in your left thumb, there are atoms that have been inside dinosaurs, inside ocean water, inside the lungs of a person who lived and died 1,000 years ago and never knew your name, inside clouds, inside Antarctic ice, inside things that no longer exist. And in a few years, maybe sooner, those atoms will be somewhere else, in the ground, in a plant, in the atmosphere, in somebody else's left thumb. The atoms don't know they're you. They're just passing through. They were doing things before you existed, and they'll be doing things long after you're gone. You are, and I mean this in the most precise, literal, physical sense, a temporary agreement between atoms. Now, that raises an uncomfortable question. If the atoms are just visitors and the cells are constantly dying and being replaced, what is the persistent thing? What's actually continuous here? Here's where people answer too fast. I've seen it. Someone will say, it's your soul, and close the question before it's even been opened. Someone else will say, it's your DNA, but that's not quite right either, because DNA is a recipe, not a self. It's instructions, not experience. What we can actually say, based on what we know, is this. What persists, at least in part, is a pattern. Specifically, the pattern of connections in your brain. The synaptic architecture, The particular web of hundreds of billions of neural connections that encodes your memories, your habits, your fears, your sense of humor, your sense of self, that pattern changes slowly. It shifts over time, but it has a continuity that your atoms don't have. Here's a way to think about it. A wave in the ocean isn't a thing, it's a shape. The water molecules in a wave aren't moving forward with it. They're mostly moving in little circles. The wave moves. The water stays roughly where it is. The wave is a pattern traveling through material, not a collection of specific material molecules. You might be something like that, a pattern moving through matter. The matter comes and goes. The pattern, for a while, persists. But now I have to be honest with you, because this is where the answer gets genuinely incomplete, and I think you deserve to know that. The pattern idea explains something. It explains why you feel continuous even though your atoms are replaced. It explains why your memories survive even though the molecules encoding them are exchanged. But it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain this. Why does the pattern experience itself? Why is there something it feels like to be you? I can map every neuron in your brain. I can track every atom. I can describe the synaptic pattern in perfect mathematical detail. And at the end of all that description, I still haven't answered why there's a you in there looking out, why there's an inside to the experience at all. Philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness, and they're right to call it hard. It's not just a puzzle waiting for more data. It's a puzzle that challenges whether our current frameworks are even the right ones. Neuroscience can tell you which regions of your brain activate when you feel joy or fear or love. It can point to the correlates of experience. What it cannot yet tell you, not even close, is why those physical processes feel like anything from the inside. I can describe what changes and what stays the same. I can trace the atoms back to dying stars. I can map the synaptic architecture. But the question of why any of this is accompanied by experience, why there's a first-person perspective at all, that one I can't answer. And I think you should be very suspicious of anyone who says they can. Now, let me take this somewhere you might not have expected. You haven't just changed physically. You've been several different people. At 7 years old, you had a different emotional architecture, different fears, different things that made you laugh. The neural connections in your brain were radically different from what they are now, not because the neurons were different, but because the connections between them were. Here's something strange. You had more neural connections at age 2 than you do right now. The developing brain forms connections at a staggering pace and then prunes them, strategically eliminating the ones that aren't being used to make the ones that remain faster more efficient. Growing up is in part a process of selective forgetting, of becoming more yourself by losing things. The person who experienced your earliest childhood memories, that specific neural configuration, it doesn't exist anymore. It was dismantled gradually and quietly while you were busy growing up. And that's partly why you can't remember being a baby. Not because those memories were stored somewhere and then lost, but because the self capable of forming and storing those memories hadn't yet assembled itself. There was no stable you yet to have experiences that could be filed away. Which brings up something even stranger about memory itself. You think remembering is like playing back a recording. You access the file, it plays, you experience the past. But that's not how memory works. Memory is reconstruction. Every single time you remember something, your brain is rebuilding it, pulling together fragments, filling in gaps, shading the whole thing with who you are right now in the moment of remembering. The memory changes slightly every time you access it. Your past is not a fixed archive. It's a story you keep telling yourself. And every time you tell it, you edit it a little without knowing you're doing it. You think you're remembering, you're actually recreating. Every time. Now let me ask you something directly. Is the person watching this video right now the same person who pressed play? Because in the time since you started watching, and I mean this exactly, not poetically, roughly 25 million of your cells have died. Others have divided to replace them. You've exchanged atoms with the environment through every breath. And a small number of synaptic connections in your brain have shifted because you've been learning things. Your neural architecture right now is measurably structurally different from what it was 15 minutes ago. Are you the same person? The honest answer might be mostly, kind of. In the ways that matter for practical life, yes. But in the most rigorous physical sense, not quite. And here's the part I find genuinely beautiful and a little terrifying at the same time. Dying is happening in you right now. Not as a dramatic event, as a constant quiet biological process. Apoptosis, programmed cell death, is one of the most elegant mechanisms in biology. Your cells have a built-in self-destruct program. When it's time, they activate it. They don't get torn apart by disease or injury. They choose, if we can use that word loosely, to dismantle themselves in a controlled way so that the surrounding tissue can continue. And here's the thing that stops me every time I think about it. Cells that refuse to die become cancer. The willingness to die, the programmed end, is what makes the larger organism possible. Without constant cellular death, you couldn't live. Dying at the cellular level isn't failure, it's participation. It's the price of the pattern continuing. So are you dying right now? Yes, constantly. Are you being born right now? Also yes, constantly. Both are always true, simultaneously, without contradiction. Now let me try to bring all of this together, not to close it up neatly, because it doesn't close up neatly, but to show you the full shape of the question. You came into this video thinking you were a solid, continuous object, a thing, a noun. But look at what we found. Your atoms are borrowed. They arrived from supernovae and oceans and plants and other living things, and they'll leave you the same way, cycling on into other forms, other arrangements, long after the pattern that is you has dissolved. Your cells are temporary. They live and die on timescales from days to decades, and the body you inhabit is a constantly renewed structure that looks stable only because the renewal is so perfectly coordinated. Your neural pattern, which is probably the closest thing we have to a physical substrate of identity, does persist, but it changes constantly too. It was radically different when you were 2. It'll be different again when you're 70. Your memories aren't recordings. They're reconstructions, slightly different each time. Your past is partially a living document, not a sealed archive. And underlying all of it, the atoms, the cells, the neurons, the memories, there is still this completely unresolved question of why any of it is experienced from the inside. Why there's a U-shaped perspective on all of this flux. You're not a thing, you're a process. Not a noun, a verb, a temporarily stable configuration of matter and energy and information that arose out of 4 billion years of biological history, that maintains itself by constant exchange with its environment, that experiences itself somehow mysteriously from the inside, and that will eventually stop being stable, at which point the atoms will disperse and become part of other processes, other patterns, other temporary agreements. That's what you are. I've spent a long time studying nature's rules, and one thing that never stops being true is that the closer you look, the stranger it gets. Not the stranger in the unsettling, destabilizing sense. The stranger in the sense that the actual reality is so much richer and weirder than the rough cartoon of it we carry around in our heads. The atoms in you right now were forged in dying stars. They have been cycling through matter and energy and life for billions of years. They will continue cycling long after every trace of the pattern that you call yourself has dispersed. In that sense, a very real and literal sense, they were never yours. But right now, in this moment, they're arranged in a way that lets something look out at the universe and find it beautiful. That lets something hear a question and feel genuinely curious. That lets something sit with mystery without panicking. And even on a good day, find the mystery itself to be a kind of gift. That's not nothing. I don't know what to call what you are. Person is too simple. It doesn't capture the process, the flux, the borrowed atoms, the temporary pattern. Pattern feels too cold. It doesn't capture the fact that something in here is experiencing this. Organism is accurate, but somehow misses the point. Maybe the right word hasn't been invented yet. But whatever you are, you're happening right now, in this moment. That verb is the truest thing I can say about you. And then the atoms move on.